This is where the Moscow rumour mill says Edward Snowden has taken shelter, swapping the Moscow airport transit lounge for one of these gated luxury residences. You'll find lots of these luxury new-build properties across Moscow's outer suburbs, but Edward Snowden's got to have deep pockets. A townhouse or apartment like this would set you back up to $1.2 million. But it'll have what he wants: surveillance and security. And don't forget, it's Snowden's presence in Moscow that caused Obama to cancel his meeting with Putin. They last met at the G8 summit in June, when it looked as though US-Russian relations couldn't get any worse. Then Snowden dropped in. On the run after leaking US national security secrets, he stepped off a flight from Hong Kong in June and immediately plunged Washington and Moscow into even murkier diplomatic depths. With Putin quick to rebuff Washington's increasingly desperate request to extradite the former NSA analyst. After a 5-week sojourn stranded in the transit lounge at Moscow airport, Snowden emerged clutching Russian asylum papers. And that was enough for Washington to scrap the one-to-one mini-summit between the presidents. And that brought this response from Moscow. The US is bringing into question bilateral contact at the highest level. I think this is an absolute distortion of reality. It's looking at the world in a crooked mirror, said the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov. Political analyst Marsha Lippman said Washington completely misread signals from the Kremlin over the Snowden affair.
On the American side, I think there was not enough understanding, and again, maybe not enough desire to understand just how firm, how absolutely determined Putin stood not to extradite Snowden and even not to dispatch him to any other country where he runs the risk of being caught by the Americans.
Friday's meeting between US Secretary of State John Kerry and the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will enable Washington and Moscow to kickstart talks with Syria, Afghanistan and Iran on the agenda. Edward Snowden will be the elephant in the room. Here in Moscow, no real surprise that Obama scrubbed the meeting with Putin. It wasn't just Snowden. There were a host of issues that soured relations between the two superpowers. But the Kremlin says it's prepared to cooperate with Washington over matters of pressing interest. And Friday's meeting between the US Secretary of State and the Russian Foreign Minister, and of course the G20 in early September, will give both sides a chance, if they want, to begin to repair this fractured relationship. Peter Sharp, Al Jazeera in Moscow.